go into every detail of it, which we do from point of view of traditional university system. For paper setter, it is a guideline. Here the teacher is the paper setter, teacher is the evaluator. So we should have that kind of thing so that they are able to develop their reasoning. Next, if we rely upon the findings of this study, we may say that while performance on verbal ability seems to be somewhat satisfactory, reasoning is an area where there is scope for improvement. Lot of scope. Considering that the elements of the reasoning tests are crucial to making sound management decisions, this is important. You cannot make sound management decisions unless you have a very rich array of reasoning in your mind. This is a phenomenon which warrants closer attention. Design of syllabus, design of question paper, timing of the question paper. Every day in a week, 1 hour you take it and finish. But 3 hours, 10 days, 15 days, your working hours are also lost. The phobia of examination gets generated among the students. Then they have all kinds of stresses. Some of the girls, they take sleeping pills and so on. So make it as a part of learning testing, and so on. Not the traditional type. Next, enhancing employability, what needs to be done. There is a need for a clear focus on improving the employability of youth. Youths now require the skills beyond the basics of reading, writing and arithmetic, basic 3 R's. The skills such as critical thinking, communication, collaboration and creativity are now important in more and more jobs. The special emphasis on verbal and written communication skills, especially in English, would go a long way in improving the employability of the large and growing mass of disempowered youth. This is more a challenge in UP. क्योंकि हमारे एक मुख्यमंत्री हुए, उन्होंने कहा अंग्रेजी के टाइपराइटर्स 2 दिन में खुलवा। राष्ट्रीयता के लिए हिंदी का जो है जानना, लिखना, पढ़ना बहुत जरूरी है। According to him, it is not hard. It is according to him. And the said party now in power realizes that well, UP is lagging behind on all fronts. And among the many reasons which are accountable for this, one of the reasons is the neglect of English. There was a time when in civil services, from UP there was a very good representation. But thanks to this idiosyncrasy of the politicians, that we have to discard English in order to promote Hindi, the contribution of UP has slided down drastically. And your students, you get slightly better students. But if you ask them that, look, on this split in Bihar between Janata Dal and BJP, you make a write-up indicating what are going to be the business opportunities and business threats because of this development. They can't do it. And if a student does it well, I'll take it that he has cleared one of the tests. Make it like that. Thereby you will be able to generate the independent thinking and writing. Because it is not available in book, it is available in newspaper, on the electronic media and so on. So he will have to read that, listen to that, watch that, conceptualize that, arrange it in a sequence, logical sequence, and then write. So his concentration will be there, he will have to pay attention to it, he will have to develop the art of writing, and he will have to synthesize the thought process. Then only he can write. So if you make him write on such contemporary issues, आपको अभी दिया हमने कुछ बनवाया है, इसको आप जो है अभी इसको कोऑर्डिनेट करना है. It is fall in Indian rupee vis-a-vis dollar. What implication it has? बजाय इसके ट्रेडिशनल जो है इंडियन इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ाने के कोऑर्डिनेट. Every day you do it here. Identify one problem, give it to students, both rich infrastructure है, thanks to Jadi and SMS, all facilities are there. Give it, analyze it, they will be more attentive rather than just go on speaking and so on. Special emphasis on this next, missing employability skills, attitude, sincerity, ownership, motivation, they are missing. Business ethics and honesty, missing. Grooming and confidence. People say, देहात का काम का है, ये क्या बोलेगा, क्या पढ़ाएगा. I prefer such politics. They need only to be groomed. But the inner discipline, the inner incentivization which exists among the boys and girls of rural life, is tremendous. Then communication skills and general awareness. This is where it is not only the students who lack, even the teachers lack that general awareness. Sometimes I discuss in train or plane something. Some people say, I have no interest in politics. I say that you cannot breathe fresh air if you don't have your say in politics. ये तो पूरा देश बेच दे, पूरी जमीन बेच दे, पूरी धरती बेच दे, in order to buy votes, in order to get into power. They are not worried about what is happening to the people, whether they get fresh air, fresh, water, drinkable water. These are all polluted. These are going to be the big problems until our children will not have that kind of long life, healthy life, youthful life, because their food habits are highly polluted. There's junk food they take. They don't get fresh air because they get up at 9 in the morning, not at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. They don't even take their bath. I'm telling you that. ऐसे फोन पर साबुन लगाया, कपड़े सुबह को आते हैं. Their food habits are bad. Their physical exertion is not there. They always move on motorbike or car and so on and so forth. Do you think medicines are going to increase your longevity? No. It is the living style which makes you healthy or sick. Gandhi lived up to the age of 97 and very active. यहाँ पे 45 साल में हार्ट अटैक हो जाता है, रात गिर जाते हैं, जवान लोग करते हैं. Because they don't care for what is healthy living. Next, basic managerial skills which we have to develop: leadership, teamwork, time management, etc. यहाँ मैं देखता हूँ, दादी ये आपके लिए पॉइंटर है. कोई भी है इवेंट, समझे, बाकी को क्यों नहीं आता? उनमें इनिशिएटिव नहीं है, कॉम्पिटेंस नहीं है, आते हैं. मैं तो हरदम पिक्चर में ही थी लेकिन Sandeep and Sanjay and Meenakshi. Everyone should be Sandeep, everyone should be Sanjay, everyone should be Meenakshi. इन लोग को भी आराम दीजिए कि भैया बहुत कर दिया, थोड़ा सा एक साल आप आराम करो, sabbatical leave. Let others do it. And unless you make others develop, you will be depending only on Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi. आज कांग्रेस की ट्रेजेडी है, they don't have a name which can inspire confidence among the voters of India in preference to Modi. This is a big problem. Whom to name? They have to name a person who can measure up to the challenge offered by Modi. One. Two, they are looking for a person who can be pliable, like Dr. Manmohan Singh. And three, a person who is acceptable to all, like Dr. Manmohan Singh. It's very difficult. So, this the beginning has started with a break in Bihar. And many such breaks and many such realignments are going to be. Tell your students on this and let them draw the inferences what is going to happen in terms of leadership, in terms of business prospects. If Modi comes, for which the horizon appears to be very clear, obviously the economy is going to get boosted because of his pro-developmental image that he has developed. And he is not going to tolerate nonsense, There is a case against an IS officer who are not giving permission to CBI to quiz him for years. And in the meantime, all the documents are destroyed. Are you serious about eradicating corruption? No. How Anna became important? It is because of this. And the youth, the younger generation, who constitute more than 50% of the Indian population. And it is this generation which is going to have a catastrophic kind of change in the landscape of politics in India. 2014 will be just the beginning, but 2019 will be the real, semi-final. And then final will be played 5 years later. Then this, leadership, teamwork, time management, basic sales and customer service, most entry-level jobs require one of these. Domain knowledge. If you can make your students production, prepare a trial balance of a company in which they are receiving training, summer training. I think a lot of input they will develop so far as accounting and this kind of business. If they can prepare profit and loss account, if they can prepare trial balance, if they can prepare balance sheet, it's hands-on experience. And that they can do provided they have the domain knowledge and then work experience. Work experience you can provide through this. So classroom teaching is to be less and less, and hands-on experience has to take precedence over the classroom. Next. Where lies the problem? The current focus of most business schools is largely around knowledge, dissemination and not skill development. We are more concerned about covering the syllabus, lecturing. But After that lecture, whatever knowledge domain they have gathered, whether they can use that knowledge for doing something concrete, that is what is a skill. While the recruiters would like day one productive employees, most business schools are producing graduates who are not readily employed. The company has to provide 1 week training, 15 days training, 1 month training, 3 months training to make them employed. Next. On the other hand, business schools complain that the students don't feel interested in the class and are only interested in degree and job. While the good jobs are linked to comprehensive knowledge and communication ability, so it is a dual challenge. How to put down their thought and knowledge input, and how to develop their communication skills. Both in terms of knowledge, how to pass it on, because they are disinterested knowledge. And once they have that knowledge, how they can express that knowledge in writing, in verbal communication and so on. Next, the knowledge inputs can be broken down in terms of background knowledge of economics, Indian economy, business environment, international business environment, and environmental understanding. This will constitute the knowledge inputs. Background subject knowledge inputs, general management, organizational behavior, human resource management, management of financial management, then marketing management, operations management, etc. Next. Measurement and analytical tools and techniques knowledge inputs, financial and cost accounting, management accounting, statistics, research methodology, and quantitative techniques. Application knowledge inputs, electives, major and minor, the pedagogies have to be relevant to the knowledge inputs as listed above. For each category, 4 categories are there. One is the background input, then your knowledge input, then your quantitative input, and then application. The pedagogy has to be relevant to that input. No standard ready-made jacket can fit all the inputs. So you have to decide which role play, which simulation, which case will cater to what kind of input. Next. Most of the examples given in the books, especially books authored by foreign authors, give examples and cases which have hardly any relevance to the ground realities obtaining in India, and hence the students show lack of interest in the classroom lectures. If you teach from Kotler, then Stephen P. Robbins, the examples, the cases that are given there, they relate to foreign culture, facts, business situations and so on. Unless you take pains to collect the relevant cases, the relevant information, the relevant example from Indian scene, and also as latest as possible, which has happened within a week, within a month, give them. Because it is fresh in their mind. They can apply their mind on those cases, on those simulations. Next. Now the challenge before the teachers is how to correlate the day-to-day happenings in the field of technology, economy, national and international, corporate business, non-corporate business, politics, law, civil society and environment to the field of management students. Anna as a factor, as a phenomenon, Kejriwal as a phenomenon should be discussed. Don't dismiss them just because they don't have a well-lit party. This is how parties are made. Johnson was created by a single man from Bengal, Calcutta. Isn't it? Shyama Prasad Mukherjee. The intellectual orientation was provided by the Indian Republic. And the legwork was done by Vajpayee and Gandhi. This is how the party came up. Johnson was later re-christianed as Bharatiya Janata Party. Many parties, Mulayam Singh's party, Mayawati's party, they have come up in a certain given situation with certain motivations. Let the students know that, well, if we are to fight corruption, if we are to fight red tapeism by bureaucrats, then what needs to be done? Is it only through prevention, or it is only through shouting on the street, or by getting organized into a force? Kejriwal has provided a forum. Anna has provided a forum. Why can't we replicate such a forum? So unless you emphasize on these aspects, instead of pricing and this product development of the time, they will do the product development, knowing what are the inputs needed for product. But in order to sell it smoothly and don't fall into cartelization, Moily, the petroleum minister, saying that I receive threats every day. Why? Even the public sector and the private sector, both. Let the students understand what it is, why. The biggest change that has taken place in ministry reshuffle, it is in petroleum. And it is the Reliance Group which decides who should be the petroleum minister. Let the students know it. And once they are able to talk openly in public and through media, if it is covered, the government will be on the toes. They will not do it. Make the student actively involved in interactive learning, away from the drudgery of hackneyed lecture method. As I said, two-way. You should participate, the student should participate. And you should not try to cover everything in 50 minutes or 1 hour lecture that you are doing. Say 15-20 minutes you can initiate and let the students take it. Then it will be more absorbing for the students. Their attention will be retained. Next. The teacher has to earmark the portions in the syllabi for each paper to be covered by students' presentation. 30% course content should be covered by students' presentation. Another 10% through role plays. Another 10% through simulations. 50% should be covered through these methods. The students are to be told the reference books along with the chapters and pages of the books and journals which they have to consult for preparing their presentations. The pedagogy would develop among the students the art of writing in a concise manner and their verbal presentation ability, besides making the students in general attentive. This will make the students develop the art of writing, the art of speaking, and to be concise. Next. The cases role plays, simulations, syndicate discussions have to be structured keeping in view the ground realities as reported in newspapers, TV news coverage, magazines and journals, correlating them with the conceptual inputs of different areas and also creating the bridges between one knowledge input and another knowledge input. What you study in accounting, how can that knowledge of accounting, which is a science of recording, classifying and reporting the financial transactions results in order to make financial decision making, marketing decision making, HR decision making and so on. How to show the students that look, these ratios, different kinds of ratios, they can help you to analyze what in marketing, what in finance, what in HR and so on. So they will try to learn these ratios. Otherwise only cramming formula will not help. When you make them do this exercise in the classroom by taking up a problem from HR, absenteeism of workers, what kind of ratio you should use, measurement of productivity, what ratio you should use, the linking of bonus to productivity, what ratio you should use. So you have to create bridges between one domain knowledge and another domain. Next, Narayan Murthy's return signals backbone in Infosys top level leadership. तो कब करें इसमें जाएंगे तो लंबा से जाएगा। चलिए इसको स्किप कीजिए। लीडरशिप इंस्टीट्यूट उन्होंने किया है Infosys वालों। नेक्स्ट, better planned needed. Next, learning environments must include problem-based as well as knowledge-based learning. Very important. You know, it should be problem-based learning. The knowledge which you provide through the books, through your lectures, they should be made linked to the problem. Problem, say, in Indian economy today is that the demand is not picking up. Cars are not selling, scooters are not selling, houses, flats are not selling. Lot of flats are lying unsold. If they are not selling, obviously the builders will not build. If they don't build, employment of manual labor will go down. The production of cement will go down. The production of steel will go down. The production of electrical appliances will go down. So, if anything happens in one part of the economy, which is labor intensive, then it will have its impact, a contagious negative impact on all segments of the economy. You have to show them, you have to prove them that look, these studies of CIR, the studies of ASSOCHAM, the study of this FDP, they show that these are the negative impacts which have been created as a result of the slowdown. So when you correlate a burning problem with the negative and the positive effects, then the student will feel interested in the class. And if you simply go on covering the theoretical aspects and so on, they will not be interested. So, learning environments must include problem-based as well as knowledge-based learning. Next, types of learning. These are the types of learning. Problem-based involves analysis, synthesis and evaluation. Analysis in terms of ramifications. What kind of veins run through the body of the economy? Agricultural sector, industrial sector, service sector, export sector, import sector, technology sector. You know, if one happening happens, say, fall in the value of rupee, it's going to affect the different sectors of the economy. This is what we say problem-based learning. Then knowledge-based learning. Knowledge-based learning would involve recall, comprehension and application. Recall means what has been said by Adam students, by Marshall, by Pigu, by Schumpeter. And what are those distilled concepts, theories, laws, and to what extent those theories and laws are not working today? What has gone wrong with them? And that is what you can teach, provided you can let them know application. You know that Keynes, in 1929, when there was a Great Depression, to British government he suggested that to come out of this Great Depression, let the government spend money on providing jobs to the people, to dig holes and to fill them up. गड्ढा करो उसको भरो, उसे मजदूरी मिलेगी तो खर्च करेंगे, तब जाके इकोनॉमी पिकअप करेंगे. It is more or less the same thing in the form of a different guard. What is Manrega? Manrega is nothing but the same thing. गांव में नाली है, पोखरा है, फिशिंग के लिए है, ये सड़कें बनाना है, उसमें बेईमानी हो रहा है. But the concept is that we have to generate employment in the rural area, because the population in rural area is not confined to one child down or two child down. It is half a dozen children, to a dozen children, because they are not educated, they are not responsible. They think that more the merrier. But how to provide them jobs? So this Manrega is a way in which the Keynesian theory is now being applied in a different way. But whatever has crept by way of a negative impact of that, let the boys and girls know the process. So that when they find job, they could say that, look, this is not going to permit. Because this has been linked with vote bank politics. And the most deleterious effect of this Manrega is that the agricultural labor in rural areas has become costly, because they are getting 120 or something. Now they say 120 वही मिल रहा, आधा काम करते बैठे करते. If you pay 150, then I will come. So the agricultural labor has become costlier. So the input cultivation of crops has become costlier, and at the top of it, it is not resulting into creation of productive assets, which it was intended to be. Half of the money is pocketed by the panchayat system, and the remaining half goes to them, but they are not working. Now this is not the purpose of Keynes, where he said dig holes and fill them. So this application, how it is being done, if you bring it to the notice of our students, then they will develop a new vista of thinking, new vista of analysis. Next, our goal, clarity is the key. Go ahead. Courses. Go ahead, dabate jao. Courses include industry requirements, specialization and medium. Medium happens in Hindi English. medium means, should it be covered in the classroom or should it be covered when they go for summer placement? Should it be done through lecture or should it be done through syndicate discussion? Should it be covered in the form of a lecture or it should be in the form of a case? This is what this medium means. So, this is courses, industry requirements, specialization medium. Then accordingly you develop your innovative pedagogy. For which thing, which pedagogy is going to be useful? Whether case is going to be useful, simulation is going to be useful, or syndicate discussion is going to be useful, or seconding them to prepare a project by going to an enterprise and talking to the manager, look, my boss will be there 3 days in a week, spending 3 hours every day, you please take one from them. Give them a project. By this they can learn better. Because they are going, they are trying to find out what is happening in the organization. Good things are happening, bad things are happening, challenging things are happening, promising things are happening, disappointing things are happening. So let them have a feel of all this. And then a student needs evaluation and assessment plus on the job training. So this will also boil down to innovative pedagogy. Let the evaluation be not only based on examination performance or every semester and so on. Let the evaluation be based on what they have learned, done, contributed in their summer, in their project that they have undertaken from the company, from the organization. Next, innovative methods of teaching. What? Wow, I hear and I forget. हम लोग पढ़ाने के टीचर को 2-3 करते थे, कोई इस तरह का blackboard होता था. So whatever we heard, we forget. Yeah, I'm happy that some of you are taking notes. So chances of forgetting will be less. Then I see and I believe. This visual presentation, it is seen and believed. As I started with giving you the data about employability worldwide, what is happening, why it is happening. And I do and I understand. By doing, if you gather knowledge, that's the best way. Reading is not the best way. Listening is not the best way. The best way is doing and then internalizing the experiences that you have learned while doing. Next. Now, cone of learning, this is given by Edgar Dale. This after 2 weeks we tend to remember. And when we tend to remember, it is the smallest part. So, we in 2 weeks' time tend to remember only this much. But 90% of what we both say and do, it will be what is doing a dramatic presentation, simulating the real experience and doing the real things. See the spread, the base, and see the top. There was a film known as Lagan. आप लोग देखा होगा. What message you get by watching Lagan? In some of the IMs it has been accepted as a case for leadership stuff. This. Doing a dramatic presentation. In Lagan, you know, that play, match, it was a dramatization. If you simply say, this is the definition, this is the scope, this is the advantage, this is the disadvantage, you will not take it over. But if you dramatize, this simulation is what? Dramatization. You create conditions whereby their attention is drawn, something new is going to happen. So that is what it is, you know. Dramatizing presentation and then simulating the real experience and then doing the real things. Then it will be 90% between skill. Pedagogy means ध्यान. If you teach through lecture, then this much is going to be the retention. But if you do it through simulation, case method and the role play, then it is going to be 90% doing. In between 70% is through participating in discussion. As I said, don't lecture yourself all the time. In 1 hour period, 20 minutes you lecture, remaining 40 minutes, let them ask questions, then you monitor and then you try to give direction that, look, this is what the point you have missed. Then the entire class will be attentive. And each one will compete with one another. And that should form the basis of your assessment also. You must know each and every parameter. You must watch their performance carefully. You must same time go in your chamber and note down who said what and what he or she should be given in terms of internal assessment. What is known as class participation. So this is what it means, you know. This one. 70% of what we say, that is participating in a discussion and giving a talk. And then 50% of what we hear and see, only 50% we are able to retain. Watching a movie, looking at an exhibit, watching a demonstration and seeing it done on location, then we are able to get 50%. Then 30% of what we see looking at pictures. These are pictures. And 20% of what we hear, hearing words. And 10% of what we read. Foreigners and केवल 10% हमारे वाले बाकी नहीं. So pedagogy का ये best, this pyramid, you know, explains what should be the focus and emphasis of the pedagogy. This portion is passive. From this up to this, it is all passive. And the remaining portion from here downwards, it is receiving and participating. Visual receiving is passive and receiving and participating is active and doing is much more active. So you make the students do. अभी तक ये होता है कि students don't do anything. एक समझ में जाते हैं, एक प्रोजेक्ट दे देते हैं, नकल मार के करते हैं, क्या करते हैं? Let every teacher own 10 students, 20 students. See word by word what they are doing. Discuss with them in the channel what you have learned. rectify that project and make them realize that look how a real summer training project is written. Because that will form the basis of the fourth semester project. And fourth semester project will form the basis of his or her employability. If it is properly written, covering a live problem, providing teeth, claws into that problem, and providing data to analyze that problem, then the employer will see the boy can do. Boy is employed. But if he is borrow knuckle from one source or the other, employability is zero. So this is where the teachers have to be very careful. ये नहीं लाया 10 खत मारा ले जाओ हो गया 90% ये PhD में हो रहा हो तो छोड़ो सुपरवाइजर्स बजाय पढ़ने के एक पे सारे टेबल्स देखने के क्वेश्चनर देखने के और लोग whatever candidate has taken that I have done more than 200 pages thesis. Forget about methodological gaps and other things. They don't even read. The same is true about your projects of the students. So if you want your students to take summer training projects seriously, final semester projects seriously, then projects to be taken live in each semester, at least 2 projects per semester. By going to diesel locomotive works, or to a builder, or to a government bank and so on, whatever. Let them go, identify a problem, write a report on that problem and submit it to the general manager. Submit a copy to you. Let the director be in the know of things so that he can monitor. Next. Now Bloom's classification of this, that of educational objectives, the classification of educational goals, creating, evaluating, analyzing, applying, understanding and remembering is the largest portion. Understanding is the second largest. Applying is the third largest. And you can achieve this applying and understanding and remembering provided you have the analytical power. And that analytical power, ability to बाल की खाल निकाल, जैसे धुलने वाला रुई धुलता है. अब that is what is analytical ability. Next. Latest Indian economic growth, India's economic growth slumped to a 10-year low of 5% in 2012-13. Let us look at the interplay of forces behind it. 1% growth in the manufacturing sector in 2012-13, the slowest since 1991-92, down from 2.7% last year, as firms hit by slower demand hold back investments. Don't think it is a subject matter of economics. Most of the management teachers, they consider economics as untouchable. 3 areas are untouchable: accounting, your area, economics, and third is quantitative. क्या पढ़ना चाहिए? OP, Principles of Management, HRM, Marketing Code Management. But unless you know that where the economy is going, because your job will come from the economy, your demand for money will come from the economy, your status will come from the economy, your global positioning in terms of job will come from the economy. If FDI comes, obviously it will come in various forms. And to manage that FDI, it is the talent which is required. And the talent can be employed provided the health is good. You understand? अगर जिस तरह की सुविधा ना हो तो क्या फैकल्टी डेवलपमेंट होगी भाई? क्लासरूम में तो नहीं होगी. That ambience is not there. So the growth of the economy provides the ambience whereby all segments of the economy, agriculture, industry, services, export, import, transport, everything booms. And so it provides a positive outlook for jobs. And that positive outlook for jobs you can encash provided you make your students employed, who can fit into the job. Next, 1.9% projected growth rate in farm output in 2012-13, down from 3.6, mirroring patchy monsoons last year that hit agricultural crops. Food grain prices, they world over are much higher than the general wholesale prices. Why? Because worldwide agriculture has suffered. And where land is there, people are not there to cultivate, and where land is not there, people are there. The density of population in India is so high that the per capita availability of land in India is almost the best. So where from you are going to provide employment to the rural masses whose population base is very wide. So these analytical exercises have got to be done. Then rupees 68,757 per capita income of the Indian in 2012-13 at current prices, up from 61,564 last year, 11.7% growth. This 11.7% growth is a fairly satisfactory growth in per capita. Because the economy is growing at 5%, you are getting 11%. But this student must be told it is at market rate. Here the inflation has been factored into, and that's why it is 11%. Otherwise it is, if you minus inflation, it is much less. That means if you take into consideration the purchasing power of that money, it has not improved much, it is not 11%. So the boys have to be told about these things. Next, what does the latest data tell us about the Indian economy? The students will pose these questions to the students. What are the primary factors that have pulled down the growth? Why this growth has come down? Pose these questions to the students. Let them discuss. You monitor. You regulate. Their analytical ability will be. Then how have prices pulled down growth? Price rise, it pulls down the growth. How and why? यहाँ कोई इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ाने वाला है? How and why?
Because whenever there is a price rise, simply what happens because of the increase in prices and purchasing power goes down. So there is a lack of demand, and that lack of demand creates a kind of a reduction in the production process. And when the production decreases, the growth decreases.
Production decreases, then there is a further pressure on prices.
That could be
yes, it has a spiraling effect. And with this spiraling effect, the savings go down. When savings go down, then investment goes down. When investment goes down, then employment goes down. Everything is in a downward swing. So let the political girls know all this. उनको लगता है इकोनॉमिक्स थोड़ा हमारा तो MBA हमें मैनेजमेंट पढ़ना है. But economics is the fuel like petrol and diesel, which will make the engine move forward. Without that engine, marketing or HR or finance, nothing will move unless the economy moves. Then, how have prices pulled down growth? Then, what about high borrowing costs? How does it affect the broader economy? There is a tiff between the Government of India and Reserve Bank of India for the last 2 years. Government of India wants that the interest rate should be brought down. The Reserve Bank of India, particularly the Governor of Reserve Bank of India, is not in favor of bringing it down because he fears the inflation will get worse. Now here is a very fine tuning required. Let the boys and girls know it, how that tuning can be done and what kind of impact that tuning will have, positive and negative, probable and improbable. Next, how has costly borrowing hurt consumer confidence? Flats, real estate, cars. On cars, a new scenario has emerged. In terms of diesel and petrol prices, difference. The car manufacturers develop engines which provided better mileage through diesel. Diesel is to be sold at a controlled price because every sector, urban, rural, poor, middle, rich, everyone is impacted by this petrol and diesel. Because किसान जो है ट्रैक्टर चलाने के लिए उसको डीजल चाहिए, पंपिंग सेट चलाने के लिए डीजल चाहिए. What the government did, they levied, a duty of roughly 1.5 lakhs to 2 lakhs on diesel cars. Because people switch the demand from petrol to diesel cars. With the result that the demand for diesel cars has gone up, the demand for petrol cars has come down. You can find this scenario in Delhi. Petrol pumps are almost empty, but diesel pumps are very busy. Similarly, your CNG pumps are very busy. Now, this scenario has led to a distortion. Distortion is that government has left petrol prices to the market forces. Again, 2 rupees petrol prices. And diesel prices, they have decided, because agriculture is involved, that every month 50 paise, it is going to be increased. So, after 2 years, 3 years, a stage will come when the difference between petrol and diesel price will be almost negligible. Then, which car will sell? Then, what is the justification of 1.5 lakhs to 2 lakhs of excise duty on a diesel car? Now, these are the issues which our boys and girls must know. Because then, in that case, they will be able to participate in the corporate discussion and arrive at a decision which will be much more objective. So, come out of the books and try to correlate these things with the background knowledge of the students. Next. What is GDP, etc., you all know. Next. It is the same thing. Next. At the end, I would like to conclude by quoting the great saint, philosopher, and religious preacher, and the great son of India, Swami Vivekananda. Arise, Utho, awake, Jagya, and stop not till the goal is reached. Goal is that you are the mentor, you are the nursery, you are the leader, you are the knowledge provider, you are the skill provider to your students. And unless you make these students knowledgeable, skillful, dynamic, bold to take decisions in a given situation by analyzing the different components of the situation and having worked out the plus and minus impacts of that situation, the student will not be made employed. And in order to see that your students are employable, as I covered in my presentation, that don't try to depend on lecture methodology. Because it is one way. Try to make two ways. That the student participate, this will ensure their participation, which I showed in that pyramid, how participation leads to learning, and this participation will make them not only to learn, but to apply that skill for management problem solving. And this is what the message. I'm sorry that I have taken a little more time than what was allotted to me, but we started 45 minutes late, and I hope I provided a good start as an opening batsman. And now the new batsmen have come. We hope that this discussion is going to be very useful. If you have any query, questions, any kind of observation, you are most welcome. I also gave you the figures of enrollment. There is a 30% increase in enrollment in management education over the last 5 years, and all riff-raff kind of elements have joined because it's a prestigious kind of proposition to have an MBA degree or PGDR qualification, because your marriage prospects improve, your status in the society improves. If somebody asks you, what is your master's degree? It is in Sanskrit, it is in Hindi, it is in Persian. Nobody takes you seriously. But the moment you say it's MBA, yes, a very modern man with all the modern knowledge inputs and so on. So that's why there is a concentration of the students for this management program. But the quality of seriousness, both on the part of teachers and on the part of the students, which is needed to make management education really knowledgeable and skillful, that has been, which I showed you through that diagram. Any other question? Yes?
At the time when you are explaining non-employability of management graduates, you mentioned that US and Japan also in that particular line of having a less percentage of employability. What is the reason behind? Because they have the development, they have all technologies, all inputs, that instead of all these things, they are lagging in this particular activity.
Do you think, as human beings, Japanese, Chinese, Americans, Europeans, they are not prone to the same kind of viral disease with which Indians suffer? This is viral spread can engulf any country, any sort of people. But if you make an analysis of the work culture of Japanese, work culture of Chinese, work culture of Americans, it is far, far better than that of Indians. But in terms of students, the scenario is different. Employability is less in those countries also because the scenario is changing so fast and the rigidity is so deep rooted As I told you, what should be the syllabus? If you go on having 32 courses to teach, in economics they have 5. Earlier when we were students, 4 in first year, 4 in second year. But our analytical ability was emphasized upon. Today, how you can send the namak and the cloth and the mobile, it is being emphasized without the analytical apparatus to be developed. It is more information loaded rather than analysis. And that's why employability is low. And scenario is changing very fast. Yes, what else? Yes.
So when we were going to the reasons of why we are not able to fill up the jobs, there was a factor of lack of experience. And you just stated that instead of having 1 into 10 years experience, we should have 10 into 10 different things on different days. Well, at the time of interviews, what our students are facing the problem, the thing is, the interviewer is saying that, okay, your CV is so very diversified into different things that you haven't specialized or not having a command on any particular thing. Then how come students can counter that qualification? No, I'm having command on this one or that. And that was for employees also.
It's a good question, Let me draw your attention to employability parameter has 2 main aspects. There I showed you the slide. One is your analytical ability, reasoning, and the second is your domain knowledge. How much you know the subject which you have specialized in. What we say, hard skill. Hard skill is domain knowledge. And your understanding, reasoning is the soft skill. Now when you try to dovetail the two, then emerges application. Your domain knowledge with your reasoning, whether it can solve the problems being faced by the industry. And every industry, every unit, every enterprise will have different problems. And if you are able to learn from each experience, that's why I said, not 1 year experience multiplied by 10, but 1 year, second year, third year, every year, new experience. And if you are able to add to your profile of experiences which they are looking for, then you will find more and more jobs, better jobs, highly paid jobs, carrying a lot of status, power, authority and everything. So the question is how far you are willing to acquire domain knowledge, one, to acquire analytical ability, two, and to use domain knowledge and analytical ability in solving business problems. If you have that variety of experience, then you are more employable, more independent.
So there is a thing that while acquiring this knowledge, if we are into like acquiring a theoretical knowledge, fine, we are okay with it.
Not theoretical, we call it domain knowledge.
We call it domain knowledge. If on practical point of view, we are going for domain knowledge, we are going for new jobs, new opportunities, then the interviewer has this thing in the mind that, okay, you have done so much job hopping just to acquire domain knowledge.
No,
That is
let
not
me tell
practically
you.
possible.
In every scenario, things are going to change. For teaching, job hopping is a disqualification.
Yes, exactly.
But for the corporate employment, job hopping every 6 months or a year is not good. But if you have a job hopping at an interval of 3 to 5 years, that will add to your experience profile, and that will be better.
So is there any other strategy to overcome this barrier of job hopping or anything you can
No, retention is strategy. We call it in HR, retention is strategy. Employees' stock options are given. That if you work here for 5 years, you will get so many shares. So you will be part of the owners.
And sir, one more thing I want to add that within the same job, different roles which you are taking, that is also giving you.
Yes, इसलिए मैंने कहा कि आपको चार्जे से मैंने कहा कि 2-3 साल के लिए let new leaders emerge in place of Sanjay and his Meenakshi and you.
It's not the quantity, it's the quality of experience.
Quality of experience. Let everyone go through that exercise. Then you will be able to develop a better team spirit, team culture.
Exposure to different
क्योंकि
situations.
बाद में लगती है हॉस्टिलिटी हो गई. यही लोग बहुत प्यारे हैं, डॉक्टर MP सिंह के, डॉक्टर Tripathi के और सब. So in order to avoid that kind of perception, let it rotate. That's why in university system headship is for 3 years. Vice Chancellor 3 or 5 years. Because these are positions of power. संदीप को ही हमेशा आगे बढ़ाए, संजय सक्सेना को ही हमेशा आगे बढ़ाए, तो बाकी जो है they will have grudge. So in order to have a positive teamwork, let everyone be developed. And they will help in development. Not that they are shirking their responsibility. They will help. In the process, they will get some relief also. They can do their academic work during this one sabbatical year of leave.
I have one interpretation between innovation and pedagogy. I am taking from other countries. Find that the curriculum is not revised for the last 30 years or 40 years. Now, we talked of business economics, we talked of business environment. How to update them to that level? We can make an innovation with the teachers. How to make an innovation with the students? That is stuff which we are teaching and categorizing based on the rural domain and the urban domain.
Let me tell you that whatever be the class of the students, rural or urban, middle class, rich class, poor class, after a certain period, let's say, incubation period could be 2 months, 3 months at most, where after every student will come to a certain level. My emphasis was more not on distinguishing students coming from rural or urban background, but the pedagogy through which you have to develop and teach. That has to be away from the lecture method and doing method, involving method, committing mistakes method. Because when you commit mistakes, then you learn. The best way of learning is सुरखुरू होता है इंसान ठोकरे खाने के बाद. जब ठोकर खाते हैं पैर में नाखून उखड़ जाता है ना, तब आप जूता और मोजा पहनते हैं, वरना चप्पल पहनने के लिए. So you have to make them do things, not listen. Or listen, only listeners. By making them listeners, you are not developing them into a good manager. In order to develop them as good managers, make them 50% doing themselves and 50% lecturing through different methods. This is what pedagogy is. Case, syndicate discussion, simulation exercises, current issues being discussed, quizzes. And there is no need that all kind of inauguration, this and that. Every Friday, every Saturday, you can pick up a problem in the class, discuss it. Let every student participate. When you build this kind of culture, then the student will be regular in reading the newspaper, in watching the TV, not cricket match. Yes, any other? धन्यवाद आप सबको.